Um, I wanted to make a video and guide everybody through uh, five separate types of fusion breaths. Um, is going to be like a mixture of both G and Z breaths in different ways. I kind of want to talk about the sun a little bit, as always, because, like, you know, basically everything that I do revolves around the sun, the Son of God. Uh, when one observes the sun, right, um, they'll notice, it's like you watch, you solar gaze and watch the sun. Eventually, you can just see the rainbow, refracting off of the the circumference of the sun. It kind of shines in your eyes a little bit. You can see it on your eyelashes. You can see it radiating off of the perimeter of the sun. But the natural order of the electromagnetic spectrum in terms of colors is the higher frequency are the shorter waves, which is ultraviolet, and the more vertical, I guess you could say, the more vertical up and down sort of waves is ultraviolet. They're higher frequency, and the red is the lower frequency. It's more, horizontal, right? The red and the horizontal refers to the earth plane, right, which is the external, right? It's the exoteric, right? It is the material, the physical. Whereas the ultraviolet, more vertical up and down sort of waves, the ultraviolet gamma has to do with heaven, right? It has to do with the mind. It has to do with the internal as opposed to the external. So the gamma is the dielectric, whereas the zeta is the magnetic, right? But to kind of give an understanding of this, here, let me find this real quick, because this is going to relate to the breaths that we're going to do. 1 second. Let me find my little graphic. Again, this is just another video off the top of my head, no script or anything like that. But I kind of just wanted to make a little video just to kind of, keep up to date with everything. Well, I mean, this kind of gives you an idea, and forgive me, this isn't the exact graphic that I'm, that I want to work with in the future, but because I kind of experimented with a little with it for a little bit. But with it, the way I experimented with it is colored in, like I made this like kind of checkerboard, white and black, in the little sections, right, of the dividing lines of, that connect the Sephiroth to the other Sephiroth. But so yeah, just kind of ignore that. I don't really know what that means. I just was doing it for, it was just interesting. But focus in on just the Sephiroth, right? So for those of you who are aware, or those of you who are not aware of this, this is the Kabbalah, right? The Tree of Life. It's the energy field of the human body based upon the 12 chakras, right? You have the 6 internal, and then you have the 6 external. But the thing about it is it's not 6 internal, 6 external. It's, you have the 6 that run along the spine, and then you have the 3 and 3, which run along the shoulders, the elbows, and the wrists, right? So the thing to note, though, is that each of the one you see, so you see these inner circles, right? You have inner purple, inner blue, inner green, inner yellow, inner orange, and inner red. Those are the dielectric centers of each chakra, right? So for instance, this is your head, right? This, both the purple and the red, this is your head, right? So the center of your brain, or the center of your head, is dielectric gamma, and the magnetic field for your head is magnetic zeta, right? So it's magnetic red and dielectric purple, which make up your head chakra, right? And down here would be your feet, or, you know, from below your knees down. This would be your magnetic gamma for the field of your, like the magnetic field part of your feet would be magnetic gamma with the dielectric zeta, or the dielectric red, which is the internal part of the field down in that Sephiroth, right? So the thing to note here is, hang on, I had that point just a second ago. Let me try and remember. Basically, each of these colors are their different aspect is reversed in a sense, right? So when you look at, like, say, a magnet, right? You have your magnet. The north pole of a magnet is redshift. Now, what most people, you know, term as blue shifting is the south end of a magnet, right? Because you have these two blue right here, but you also have these two purple. So really what this is down here is technically purple shift. So you have purple shift and red shift, and that's where you get your poles of a magnet. But of course, the dielectric center is opposite, right? So up here you would have the north end of a magnet, which is centrifugal divergence, and the south the south end of a magnet is centripetal convergence, right? But for the dielectric centers of each of these, it's the opposite. But in reality, the dielectric is the heavenly, right? It is the natural order of things, right? Whereas the magnetic is not necessarily chaos; it's just an inversion. It's a inverted of the dielectric, right? So, for instance, when you see the light of the sun, and I'm not going to get into natural rainbows too much today, but because I'm still kind of working on a little thing about that, which, you know, we're not being told, you know, the truth about how rainbows form. But this much I will say. So the primary rainbow is a reflection of the white light, which, if the white light reflected has red on the top and purple on the bottom, and the secondary rainbow is an inversion of the primary rainbow with purple on top and red on the bottom, then that means that the reflection of the reflection is the original. So the dielectric, right, of the rainbow has red down here in the low frequency where it belongs, because red is a lower horizontal earth plane physical energy, right? And purple is at the top because it is the higher frequency, right? But whenever you start getting into like directions and stuff like that, it starts to, you start to kind of get an idea of, like, you have to also include the z-axis, which is going to bring into a whole nother thing that I'm going to talk about at another point. The thing to note here, though, is that dielectric gamma is in the same field as magnetic zeta, and magnetic gamma is the field of dielectric zeta. So let me see if I can find the other graphic here real quick that I had. Give me just a second. I think it may be here on the back. Sorry, this particular notebook is not like in any order. I just kind of like write in it at any place. Okay, So this is the other thing that I was basically breaking down the aspects to the magnetic zeta, or this is the head chakra, right, with dielectric gamma at its center and a magnetic field of zeta or magnetic red, right? So you have, I put, this is the red up here in your head, and I put this M here. And then, so MZ, and then in the center, I put DG for dielectric gamma, magnetic zeta, right? Down here, this is your feet chakra, right? Your root chakra, as they would call, with the dielectric zeta in the center and magnetic gamma as the field of that, right? So your classic image of the chakras, right? With red down as your root chakra and purple up as your, your brow chakra, that's correct. But those are only the dielectric aspect of it. The magnetic aspect of your chakras, right? Because each of the sephiroths are little fields, right? Each one of them is a little energy field, and therefore they abide by the same laws of every field, right? Each one is a little toroidal center, right? And they all communicate with each other in tandem. This is what Yggdrasil, this is what Kabbalah is all about. These different worlds or these different realms, these different dimensions, frequencies all communicating with each other. So the breath thing that I wanted to get into today is, and this can be done in different ways, depending on where you start in the sequence, right? So right here on this, right, I drew out the little graphics, right? So what we're going to do is, first we're going to do a G breath, as always, right? So we're going to do a regular G breath, just one cycle, so 5 breaths. So each of these 5 cycles are all going to be 5 breaths each, right? And then one breath includes in out. So first we're going to do gamma out, as I call it, because it begins by going through the gamma sequence by exhaling, and then we go through it. Just trust me, if you were to begin the gamma breath by going in first and going through the necessitative positionings of mouth and nose, you're going to get a completely different sequence. In fact, I'm working on sequencing all these things out to try and understand the distinction between one and the other, because they're distinctly different, and they affect the body and the brain in different ways by how you're going through the sequence, right? So first we're going to basically, I'm just going to explain it real quick, and then I'll explain a little bit before we do each one. So the first one's going to be basically be gamma out, as I call it, and then gamma, we're going to do gamma out, zeta out, and then gamma in, and then zeta in. And then we're going to finish with another gamma out to complete the circuit. Because as you know, pretty much all the geometry and the mathematics of breath go in sequences of the principles of 5, right? That's one thing that you'll notice with all of the breath, the different breath codes and stuff like that, because breath in and of itself is a quaternary system. Therefore, it chains itself in sequences of first with 5, and then it adds on 4 after that. So the mathematics of the breath cycles are 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, and so on and so forth. You'll see those numbers reappear over and over and over again. But yeah, so let's first get into the first breath, and then we'll go from there. I don't want this video to be long at all. I want to be under an hour, hopefully under than that. So it's nice and windy tonight, so it's a perfect time to do the breath stuff. So we'll just begin with the first cycle. And excuse me, my voice, I threw it out whenever I was riding the bicycle home the other night, and I was kind of venting, I'll say that. But let's vent in a different way. So first begin by and remember, we're going to do one prayer at the beginning, but it's going to apply to all 5 breaths that we're going to do. And just remember that when you're breathing, I'm not going to be breathing as, you know, as qualitatively as I can. I recommend that if you're just watching this video and following along with the guided breaths, then to breathe as deeply as you can, making sure to pay attention to your holds out and your holds in, right? Try to breathe rhythmically, deeply, with quality, right? I'm not going to be able to do it as perfect as I can just because I'm going to be guiding you through, but I'll try to do it as best as I can. Just remember that when you breathe out, exhale as much air that you comfortably can out. And when you're holding it out, make sure to hold it out, right? And then when you breathe in, do the same thing. And when you hold it in, make sure to hold it in, right? And just flow with it, right? Don't try, don't push it too hard, but make sure to try and make your breath as with as much quality as you can. So the prayer for the whole sequence is, Lord Jesus Christ. Let me see. Yeah, Lord Jesus Christ, teach me, right? And that applies to me too. I'm praying to Lord Jesus Christ to teach me, right? So, let's pray to the Son of God. I'll say the prayer, and then we'll begin with the first sequence. So, Lord Jesus Christ. And, oh yeah, sorry. You remember to say the prayer in your mind or out loud. Just say it as a standalone statement. Don't connect it to anything else. So yeah, Lord Jesus Christ, teach me. Now begin by exhaling the air out of your mouth. Sorry, I totally missed something. Yes, okay, so the prayer is still active, right? Lord Jesus Christ, teach me. I apologize, but there's other commands that we're going to apply to each one. So, sorry, I'm fixing my socks. Okay, so the first one will be this: dielectric discharge. Now begin by breathing the air out of your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your mouth. 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 So that was the first sequence, dielectric discharge, which that was basically gamma out. So basically what we've done is, let me see if I have a G breath graphic here. Pretty sure I do. I draw it all the time. Okay, yeah. So basically what we did was we went through beta, alpha, theta, delta, beta, right? But the thing that distinguishes this breath that we just did to, for instance, the breath that we just did was gamma out, right? But we're going to be doing a gamma in, right? Not next, but sorry. Zeta would be, will be beta, delta, theta, alpha, beta, right? However, we will be beginning that breath with with a preliminary exhalation first. Now, the differences between a zeta out, gamma out, and zeta in and gamma in. The difference between the calling the breaths out and in is that, for instance, the out begins by a preliminary or 0th breath with an exhalation, and then it goes in out for the code beta, in out for alpha, in out for theta, in out for delta, in out for beta. So that's what makes it a gamma out or a zeta out. It begins with an out breath and it finishes with an out breath. Now what you'll notice here is, let's say we were to do a gamma in, which we will in a couple of breaths. So if we breathe, first we begin with a preliminary inhalation through the mouth for beta, right? All of these will begin either breathing out through the mouth or breathing in through the mouth. When you get into the other sequences with these, it'll, for instance, delta will actually be in the mouth, and these two will be either exhaling or inhaling through your nose. But we're just going to be starting and ending on beta for all of these particular breaths. So it'll be a preliminary inhalation in the mouth, and then it'll be out mouth, in mouth, out mouth, in nose. So you see it, the sequence is, the codes that in and of themselves are totally different. Just as a brief kind of explanation of this, I have a few of the sequences kind of set up. So, and forgive me, these graphics aren't, completely finished, but this will kind of give you an idea. So this is out beta gamma. This is basically what we just did, and this is in beta gamma. So it's internalizing mirror. So ignore this one here at the top, right? These at the top, those are the 0th breath, which is the preliminary inhalation or exhalation, respectively, for in and out. All right. So notice here, right? The in and out will always be a chain of ones and zeros, or I's and O's, right? It'll always be in, out, in, out, in, out. Except for down here, after the preliminary, it's out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. That's the only difference between the the outs and the in breaths, right? For the sequences, right? So notice that including the preliminary breath, right? And if you were to map each individual inhalation or exhalation, you have basically the undecimal system, right? So 0 to 10, aka 11 digits here, right? You'll notice that with that, the number 5 is the centiger, right? So it's the very center breath that's taking place, right? Individual breaths, mind you, right? So, and that's including the very first digit, right? Which is the 0, which is the preliminary in or out, in or exhalation. In or exhalation. So notice this, the center one for everyone will be mirrored to what the whole breath is, right? So an out beta gamma breath, right, is ultimately a, sorry, I had a little spit on my mustache. Ultimately, the purpose of this breath is to push energy out, and that's exactly what it's doing. Whereas an in beta gamma is drawing energy in within, right? So notice that the integer of each kind of breath system will always be a sort of changeover, right? It's sort of like the heart of it, right? So if the whole matrix of the breath is out, which means it's a magnetic sort of breath, right? Because it's ultimately pushing energy out into the magnetic, the heart of that will always be an in breath, right? So that's the sort of center breath within the sequence, right? So for instance, for an in beta gamma, right, the center breath will be an out breath, right? So let's just look at the M's and the N's so you can kind of get an idea of how it's being chained, right? So you have three M's, three M's, four N's, and three M's. So we have a chain of M, N, M, which is 3, 4, 3, right? So that's the, again, like I said, the inhalations and the in and the out will always bounce back and forth, in, out, in, out, in, out. But the particular position of mouth or nose will alternate depending on the breath. This is why these are so drastically different. Again, it's breath, so it's always going to feel subtle. But the deeper you get into your breath and you pay attention to what's happening inside your brain and your body, you'll realize that these are actually very powerfully different. So let's look at the in beta gamma, right? So, not paying attention to the preliminary, what we have here is I'm sorry, forgive me. The out and the in will have the same sequences of mouth and nose. So you have 3M, 4N, and 3M. Those stay the same. But from beta to gamma, it'll be basically different. So, for instance, and this is just for the beta G and Z breaths, right? Actually, hang on. Let's do the next breath real quick just to keep things flowing. So this next one will basically be magnetic charge. Now begin by exhaling the lungs, magnetic charge. Now begin by breathing the air out of your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. And breathing out through your mouth. Remember, deep, full breaths, breathing into your nose. And breathing out through your mouth. And breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your mouth. And breathing out through your nose. And breathing in through your mouth. And breathing out through your mouth. So that was magnetic charge. One thing I wanted to mention is I literally have these ideas and then it gets replaced by like 100 other ideas. Yes, so the dielectric discharge, or gamma out, is basically taking the energy that's in dielectric gamma, right? here they are. So gamma out, right? Gamma out is essentially taking the energy that's in dielectric gamma and sending it out, right? So gamma out is basically taking the energy that's in the dielectric gamma and infusing it into magnetic gamma, right? So what it's doing is it's taking the energy from here and it's shooting it out into your body field, because remember, your feet and your legs are your body chakra, and this is your mind chakra, right? Or your brain and your body, right? So what it's doing is it's taking your DMT, right, that's secreted out of the pineal gland, which is your soul energy, right, and it's converting it into physical energy, right? And there's various different ways that you basically can produce that soul's energy. One of the most primary ways is to solar gaze, right? But there's other various ways. You get it through a lot of it through your food, the nutrients in your food. You get it. You can build it up through sleep. You can build it up through certain breath techniques. There's many different ways, right? And the goal is to try and understand this energy, right? So we can understand how to essentially utilize it in order to heal our bodies and to basically ascend through higher levels of consciousness and be able to understand what God is telling us, right? So gamma out, the first one we did, dielectric discharge, is basically discharged the energy that was in dielectric gamma down into magnetic gamma, right? The one that we just did, which is zeta out, right, basically takes the energy that's in dielectric zeta and it infuses it into magnetic zeta. So you can think of gamma out or dielectric discharge as a means to take your internalized energy and use it to activate your body, in a sense, to draw your consciousness from the internal out to the external and utilize your own internal soul energy in order to basically bring your consciousness back out into the world and apply it to the other fields around you and the things that are going on in the greater realm, right? The greater magnet. Zeta out, or magnetic charge, takes your body's, like, not your soul energy, but the physical energy, right? The adrenaline, if you will, and basically brings it up and supercharges the magnetic zeta, which has to do with communication. It has to do with interacting with the other heads, right? So it's like taking your body's energy and putting it up into your head so that your head can communicate with the other heads, right? Just hope that you don't clash heads, right? So this next one is going to be magnetic discharge. All right, magnetic discharge will be gamma in, and I'll explain a little bit more after this. Actually, one thing real quick, going back to the individual codes, let me go ahead and finish my thought. So remember how I was saying that, let me find it real quick. Okay, yeah, okay, so remember how I was saying, like, for instance, out gamma has 3M, 4N, and 3M, right? Well, that would be this code, 343. It's basically a code of 343 because you have 3 mouth breaths, 4 nose, and then 3 mouths to complete it, right? And all of the out gammas will do that, right? They'll all have that 343. Whereas, whatchamacallit, or I guess, hang on one second. Let me double check this real quick. Okay, yeah, sorry. The whatchamacallit, the breaths that begin and end on beta or theta will have this 343 code. Whereas the particular cycles of starting on alpha or delta will have this, let me see, we'll have basically a 1441 code, right? So basically each, my point here is that there's a distinctive difference between a gamma out and a gamma in, right? It's a completely different mode in which the breath is occurring, right? Totally different. You know, you're using the same positioning codes of mouth, 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 nose, 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 mouth, mouth, mouth. But when you invert the out and the in, it basically is a totally different sequence, right? I'm not going to go too deep on all of these kinds of things because I'm still studying it. But it's just basically a preliminary explanation so that hopefully other people will get behind it and start digging into these things and understanding them, because there's too few people that are actually, you know, being open and giving this knowledge, like, or this wisdom freely. So I'm basically doing it in the best way that I know how. So the next sequence that we're going to do is magnetic discharge. All right. So let's say the prayer, magnetic discharge. Now begin by breathing in through your mouth, breathing out through your mouth, breathing in through your mouth, breathing out through your mouth, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your nose, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your nose, breathing in through your mouth, breathing out through your mouth, and breathing in through your mouth. Okay, sorry. I think I might have messed up on that one. I kind of got a little lightheaded on the out nose, in nose part, but I'm pretty sure I did it right. We'll go ahead and do it a second time just because, well, of the 5 different breaths that we're doing, it is the third, meaning that it is the center breath. So let's get into it. Magnetic discharge. Inhale through your mouth. Breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your mouth. Breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your nose. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your nose. Breathe in through your mouth. Breathe out through your mouth. And breathe into your mouth. Okay, I also got lightheaded on that one, but I focused on the sequence more, and I'm more, certain that I did it correctly. No, I know I did, but it's so weird how it'll cause you to detach sometimes. But that's exactly what gamma N is designed to do. Let me find that previous graphic that I was showing. So going back to explaining how each of the different of these, technically there's 4 different ways to do this, right? But again, going back to how breath sequences are done in 5s, right? At least when it comes to one full cycle, but we're doing 5 different breaths here, right? There's 4 different variations that we're doing here, right? So we're doing gamma out, zeta out, gamma in, and zeta in. But the 5th will be the first one again, right? Again, these things can be done in any sequence just as long as they're going in the natural order, right? So for instance, as I've explained before, if you do a G breath, it doesn't matter which breath, say gamma out, just the normal G breath that I've been teaching. It doesn't matter whether if you start on beta, mouth, mouth, or theta, nose, nose, or even alpha or delta, mouth, nose, and nose, mouth, respectively. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you go in the natural circuit, you will basically free up the energy, right? Because there's a natural order that these things connect to, right? If you go into the breath science, right, and you start experimenting around with what these things are without fully understanding what it is, and you're not paying attention to the order of these things, it can cause it to get a little chaotic, right? But again, there is no such thing as chaos. It's just inverted order, right? So by understanding the order of these things, right? Mouth, 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 nose, 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 mouth, 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 right? Beta, alpha, theta, delta, second beta. That's the main point to note here. Because if you just go through each of the 4 and you stop on that 4th one, it's not bringing it back around to the original starting point. Therefore, there is no full ring, right? There's no full circle. And whenever you don't have that full circle, it's not bringing the energy on the end back into where it's starting. Like I said, it doesn't really matter where you begin, just as long as you make full circuits. Wherever you start, end there, right? It doesn't matter how many cycles you do. Each of the different position starting points are more just subtle points of tweaking the energy. But the main thing to note here is that you have to be aware of these things, right? That there are these geometric patterns, and like I said, the breath is subtle, but it's powerful. And when you go in and you're basically being a scientist on these things and experimenting with it, there's often times where you can do the wrong thing and it will affect your body in a very serious way. So you have to be careful, okay? That's all that I'm saying. But gamma N, what we just did, that magnetic discharge, what it does is it disconnects you from your field, right? It disconnects your consciousness from the magnetic, so it disconnects you from other people, right? It disconnects you from the externalized field, your consciousness. And what it does is it draws the energy back up into dielectric gamma up here in the brain, right? So what it's doing is it's taking the energy that you, when you do gamma out, what you're doing is you're taking the dielectric gamma energy, your consciousness that's in here, and you're bringing it out into the physical world so you can focus on doing things out here. Whereas whenever you do gamma in, it disconnects you from the energy out there in magnetic gamma down here on your feet, and it brings the energy back up into dielectric gamma, right? So whenever you need a moment to reflect on things, go within and like figure out things internally, this and that, all those sorts of things, gamma in, because it'll bring you right back up into that dielectric gamma center. So this is the sequence so far. We've did dielectric discharge, which is taking the energy from the center of, the mind, which is like the beginning, like before creation, if you will, brings the energy out here into magnetic gamma, right? Magnetic charge. It converts that soul energy up into magnetic zeta, which is sort of like self-realization, and it's communication, this and that. Then we did magnetic discharge, right? So we went dielectric discharge, magnetic charge, then magnetic discharge, which disconnects the energy from magnetic gamma, draws it back up into the center of dielectric gamma. And now what we're going to do is dielectric discharge. So dielectric discharge. Begin by breathing in through your mouth. Oh, I'm sorry. Dielectric charge. Dielectric charge. Begin by breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your mouth. And breathing in through your mouth. So that's a dielectric charge. Basically what we just did was zeta in, right? So what we now just did was we basically took this energy, right, that's up here in magnetic zeta, and infused it into dielectric zeta. So basically what it's doing is once that energy is in here, right, that's we got from gamma in by taking the energy from magnetic gamma and bringing it up into dielectric gamma through gamma in, right, the magnetic discharge. It basically converts the energy over into a realization, right? It's like a ripening. What did I call it? Basically it gives you a response, right? So whenever you go gamma in, what it's doing is it's you're basically going in to reflect upon the thought, right? So it's bringing in the thought, whereas zeta in is now it's turning that thought that energy at that current state into physical energy, right? So basically what it's doing is it's hang on a second, what did I call it? Yeah, so basically what it's doing is it's embedding it into the, sorry, there's like a fly in here. It's basically converting the energy over into physical, like it's like a physical storing of energy, right? I had this this really cool illustration or parabolic idea for understanding these things. So dielectric discharge releases the seed of thought, right? So it takes the current um, your current level of consciousness, or whatever it is that you're working with, right? Whatever idea, and it releases it into your field, and so that way you can go and work with it, right? And focus on it. Um, Whereas magnetic charge is, it brings it up into uh, your magnetic zeta, so that way you can like basically refine it and communicate with it, right? Understand it in different ways. Then whenever you do gamma n, basically, or magnetic discharge, then it dielectric discharge is sort of like planting the seed, right? Once you plant the seed, then, and magnetic charge, what it does is it basically needs time to grow, right? So that's what like the refinement process is, that communication up here in magnetic zeta. Then the fruit starts to basically change over and transform, right? That's where you get like a different response from whenever you disconnect from the external world and you go back into dielectric gamma, right? It's sort of like a time of patience and reflecting upon um, the idea, or whatever the project, or whatever it is that you've embedded your energy into. And then when you do dielectric charge, or zeta n, basically what it's doing is it's producing then it finally grows and it produces a fruit for the next seed, right? So when you do gamma out, or dielectric discharge, you basically release in terms of like ideas, right? Like a thought, what it's doing is it's releasing the idea, right? Whatever is stored within your soul, right? Your dielectric, right? It's basically giving you a new idea, right? Or in terms of action, what it's doing is it's giving you that energy to be applied towards that action, whether if it's an idea or it's an action. Dielectric discharge is the beginning of that process, because it both gives you ideas and activates your energy to be used for that project. Whereas zeta out is that it basically starts to it needs time to grow. So the idea both needs to be refined, right? You have to sort of like work back and forth between various different ideas, and you have to work on it, right? Or for instance, in the action part, it's the refinement process. You keep working on it, right? And that it requires extended energy as well as communication energy. Whereas zeta out, it really helps to simplify things, right? So you can focus on that one thing and keep working on it, right? Whereas gamma n is like basically a time to, when you're done with refining the idea, right? It brings your energy back in so you can reflect upon it and sort of understand what the response of spirit is, because spirit brings you in and deep within, and it gives you visions, it gives you spiritual messages, etc. And by spiritual, I mean breath. So it's like the voice of God, right? Through that sort of internal reflection. Or if it's an action, it helps you to disconnect from that action. Or even if it's like a person you're working with, it helps you to disconnect from that, so that way you can basically focus on your internal process of understanding that idea or that project in different ways. It's basically like patience, letting the fruit grow, right? Or letting the seed grow. Zeta n is basically it's basically like the fruiting, right? So you finally get the result of that idea, right? It basically comes to fruition, right? Or whenever you're nearing the end of a project, it's best to do zeta n, because it helps you to understand the purpose of whatever project that you're doing or whatever idea you're having, and it'll help you to transcend and move beyond that, so you can understand the seed that's either contained in that completed project or that completed idea. It helps you to move on, because again, the fruit contains the new seed, right? And depending upon the quality of the situation, whether if it's an idea or a project, will determine whether or not that the next seed will be like it'll determine the seed's quality, right? So that way, whenever you complete that fourth one and it ripens and you get that new seed, basically it integrates into your dielectric, right? The dielectric charge, which whenever you follow up with the first one again, because again, the breath is a quaternary system, right? Or really it's quinary, sorry. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or, I mean, it's technically quinary, but you have to hit the 0 again in order for it to be a full circuit. So it's kind of both. But anyways, you do the first one again as the fifth of the sequence. And what that does is it releases the seed of the previous fruit that you just yielded and consumed and integrated, right? Whether if that's a completed project, it'll give you the idea of how to further improve that project or to move on to the next project, or it'll help you to come to a conclusion of that idea and to move on to the next idea. Every energy packet within a project, right, or an idea will contain the seeds of the next step, right, within itself, right? And so this sequence and understanding the sequence, even just the G breath alone, it contains the same geometry and these same ideas, right? All of this is basically the fluctuation of a dielectromagnetic field, right? Which together they act as a fusion, which is why these are fusion breaths, right? And that is what most people would think to be an electron, but really what it is pure electricity, right? It's the unification of the dielectric and the magnetic working together. And the pulse, it's the fluctuation, right? Between the dielectric in the center radiating out into the magnetic drawing energy back into the dielectric, and so on. And so it's basically a torus pulsating, right? So, yeah, so basically we just did zeta n, right, which was dielectric charge. So we completed it, and that was basically the fruit of this video. Again, you know, a lot of these things that I'm talking about in terms of speaking about these things, making videos, a lot of these graphics, writing all these things out, a lot of these things are still fresh to me. One, because most people don't care about it. So in my normal everyday to-day existence, people don't really go that deep with it. And two, I don't often express myself as much as I probably should. I find that I become sort of not that confident with expressing myself. So I always go back to the refinement stage of like, oh no, it's not good enough. I need to go back and, you know what I mean? So it's like doing this and making these videos and talking about these things and expressing the things that I've come to find. I'm not that confident in it yet, but I decided, you know what? There are lots of people just upload and just let it go. Let the project go and move on to the next thing, and not fret over the idea of like, oh, well, that information may be incorrect, therefore it may be bad if some people were to take it like to heart or whatever, or if people listen to this and there's happens to be something that's wrong, it's like, that's a bad thing and you shouldn't do that. You got to delete the video and all that because it's dangerous or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but it's like, it's dangerous business walking out your front door. You know, if the worst thing that I'm doing is giving people bad advice because it's not complete, right? It's not a complete science. I'm okay with that. So it's whatever. Because it's a work in progress. And as far as I'm concerned, not many other people are working on this. And who knows of the fruit that can come of it. How many people will jump in on these ideas and help me to build them up, right? And to get this out to the people, because that's the number one thing that needs to happen. You know, get it out to the people. So we're going to finish with the fifth breath and end this video because it's been going on for about an hour now. And yeah. So dielectric discharge. Breathe out through your mouth. Remember, deep, full breaths, breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your mouth. And breathing in through your mouth. And breathing out through your mouth. Okay, I got lightheaded on the nose again. And I burped coming out of the nose mouth. So we're going to do it one last time. But before we do, again, I just want to say, we begin with dielectric discharge, which is taking the energy that's in here, sending it down here. Then we do magnetic charge, which takes the energy in here, brings it out to here. Then we do magnetic discharge, which brings the energy from down here back up into here. And then we do dielectric charge, which brings the energy from here down into here. And then we go back to the dielectric discharge again. So let's do the dielectric discharge one last time, and then we'll be done. Sorry. Dielectric discharge. Breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your mouth. Breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your mouth. And breathe out through your nose. Breathe in through your nose. And breathe out through your nose. Breathe in through your nose. And breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your mouth. Mouth. Again, these systems apply to every chakra pair, right? So, you know, going back to this. I guess it'd be best to show y'all this. Oh, no, wait, I have this. So, yeah, every chakra pair, right? So, green and yellow are opposites, right, of the same field, right? There's different ways that they mirror each other. Like, for instance, green and purple are a unique set, right, that connect in a certain way, just like yellow and red, or orange and purple, or blue and purple, or green and red, etc., etc. They all interact with each other in various different ways. However, of your total overall omega system, right, because the whole field altogether is the omega. Remember that. That's your seventh, which is the pure white light, right? As you can see, this large light pixel here, right? Because your whole aura is one big gigantic light pixel. And you're just one light pixel amidst the mosaic of countless innumerable light pixels, which we call people. per sun, right? Per means like this one, this one, this one, this one, like per unit, right? And everybody has the sun energy, right? Everybody is solar lunar, right? Externalized, men appear more solar because they have the masculine aspect, right? But women on the inside are solar. Men on the inside are lunar, and on the outside they're solar. Women on the outside are lunar, and inside they're solar. But again, there's more various deviations that take place as things get more and more fractalized. But the overall omega, right, the pure white light, which gives you all six colors, right, green and yellow are the very center energy field, right? And then you have the middle ring, which is blue and orange, and then you have purple and red, which are the same energy field, just opposites, right? Because of the dielectric, the north pole is blue shift, and the dielectric south pole is red shift. But again, the magnetic, that's the north pole and that's the south pole, right? So, going back to this graphic here. Sorry, I'm about to end the video. No worries. Yeah, you have the magnetic and the dielectric aspects. So what you've learned about the chakras is correct. Red is down here and purple is up here, but only of the dielectric internal energy field. The reason why they've showed you that, but kept the secret of the magnetic from you, was because they wanted this polarity of people just being purely spiritual, and that's it. That they have no understanding of the magnetic, which is the physical, right? They don't want people to have the powers of both, which is why you learn about that chakra system with red on the bottom, purple on the top, which is the true system, but it's not complete if you don't understand its magnetic counterpart. This is why you hear about Aum, right? A-U-M, Aum, but you never hear about M-U-A, which is the magnetic, Mua, right? So the bad guys, right, they say Mua, 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 ha, ha, ha. Or why, whenever you make the kissing, symbol, Mua, Mua, right? And you go like this, in, out, right? You blow a kiss, right? And the whatchamacallit, there's a lot of different aspects of these things that they don't want you to know, right? Remember, hugs are circles, O's, kisses are X's, right? Because the magnetic is the the external, and the circle, which is representative of the dielectric on the inside, right? Which is the hugs, right? But again, whereas one aspect of all these things is the way that we know them to be, like purple at the top, red on the bottom. There's an alternate counterpart, which is basically the inversion of the system, which also interacts and is unified with it at all times. This is the unification of heaven and earth. This is squaring the circle, yada, 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 right? All these things are like this. And so you just have to understand that, yes, the heart of the brain chakra is purple, but the field of the purple chakra is red. So basically the Kabbalah, but the colors are inverted, right? So that's all I'll say for now. I would go on and on about kind of like the how this has been manifested in media and stuff like that, but I'm going to try and stay away from that. I just kind of want to give like a kind of couple ideas how it starts to make everything clear. Look at the sun, right? Praise Lord Jesus Christ, which is our beloved, unknown, mysterious yellow circle glowing thing in the sky. Pay attention to him as much as you can. Learn from him. Make sure to do your due diligence and do your breath sequences, and I assure you the downloads will come, right? The downloads will come. but the ultimate purpose is to convert them and utilize the software that you're downloading, right? Integrate it and upload all the stuff, the problems back up to the creator, which he will pour out the solutions out of the sun, right? So yeah, that's all I'll say for now, but y'all have a good one.